Hey, what's up, everyone? This is your boy Hollywood Rick, aka Hollywood Your Boy, and welcome to the Dedicated Black Dads channel. So, the Dedicated Black Dad channel is basically highlighting friends and families, black dads that I know that have made a positive impact in the lives of their kids. It basically is breaking a negative stereotype that we might have towards black dads and giving roses to those guys, those men that I feel that I've noticed to be great black dads and great black leaders. So, one of the most influential factors to me trying to do this whole thing is my guy right here, Lerone Davis.
Appreciate it, bro.
A great friend of mine, a very dedicated black dad, and I felt like it was important for me to let the world know that he's a great dad and that he's been a motivation to me and inspiration to me, and interview him and basically have him pass on some jewels to other dads about what being a dedicated black dad is and how other men can get their flowers as well. So Lerone, thanks for being here, bro.
Appreciate it, man.
Appreciate
Thanks
you
for having me.
Give me the time to sit down with you to have this conversation. It's not gonna be anything complex. It's just gonna be me and you talking like we always talk about what it is to be a father, or be a black dad, and some of the stereotypes that come with that. So, what is fatherhood to you?
Well, to me, I had my dad in my life growing up, and I think in a sense, I didn't really know what that was or appreciate it as I was younger, but the older I got, the more I see it.
Yeah.
And even now, I'll look and I see my dad as a structure, guidance, and a point of reference.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what fatherhood is to me, and the structure is very important.
Yo, you just said something very profound, and even though I kind of had an idea of a list of questions, you just said a point of reference.
Mm-hmm.
That is very strong right there. I have the same thing with my dad. I have a really good relationship with my dad, and my dad is a leader, a very strong masculine guy who showed us the way, and that's exactly what a point of reference is, showing the way. You know what I'm saying? It's like a map.
Yeah, that's
right?
it.
So that's very deep for you to say that. As a black dad, it's important for you to be a point of reference for your kids to show them where they don't have to go that route, but where they can go. You know what I'm saying? And so that was really deep for you to say point of reference. How many kids you have?
Just one.
Just one.
I
know that, but I want everybody else to know that.
So
you know what I mean? So when you think of LJ, what do you think about?
I think getting the opportunity for everything I've done wrong in my life, or the things that I see within myself that I would like to fix, giving him everything I possibly can, and giving him a good experience as a human being growing up into a world that's uncertain.
Yeah. So what emotions come when you think of the name LJ?
A lot.
Yeah, of course. I see him. He's very energetic. Sometimes I'm like, yo, where does he get that from?
Yeah, well, listen, man. Morning, noon, and night. Yeah. All energy. And he's been like that since he was in his mother's womb.
Yeah.
We went to see, through the sonogram?
Yeah.
And my man was just moving left, right,
all
and center. The lady saying, I don't know what's going on with the little man, but every time I put the scope or whatever on the stomach to see what sex it is, he switches and goes to the other side, right? And my wife would always say, I can't imagine what his face will look like. Yeah. What his emotions will look like, what his personality is going to be like. Yeah. And he surpassed any kind of imagination that we've had.
Bro, I don't know. So, this is a basic operation. It's not no big production, but just now you're talking to me. I wish you could see what I'm seeing as far as your eyes when you're talking about your kid.
That's
right. And I feel the same way. I have two boys myself, and the emotions when you recognize that these two lives or this life is part of you. You know what I'm saying? And then the things that they say and do, and the reflection of you that they are. It's like, then why would you want to? How could someone give that up? You know what I mean? Pass at that time. You know what I'm saying? So, what do you think is the most important part about most important part about being a black dad? What's the most important factor like the contribution that you can make as far as being a black dad?
My contribution is we have a very rough past when it comes to the black man in general, and the role of a father has been diminished over time because we've actually had to teach ourselves how to be a father because it was broken down in this country and various parts of the world based on slavery. It happened that many years ago, but the remnants of it is still prevalent in our community every day. So for me, I look at it as it's my ability and opportunity to correct or fix a part of the problem that I see. I only have this much control over it. So if I get this right, whatever my legacy is, I put it on into the world, and I hope that everything works out, but I'm going to give it my best effort.
So you just said another thing that I think people diminish a lot is the idea of legacy, right? So, your son, fortunately or unfortunately, your son has your name, right? And not only that's the name, because a lot of times I think that's where it gets lost, that where people say, okay, you want somebody to be able to carry on your name, but it's also carrying on your standards, carry on your culture, carry on, your principles, right? That a lot of times when as parents, people forget about those things. You know what I'm saying? And that's why historically we're kind of like behind with a lot of things, because there are certain names, like Carnegie, Kennedy, Bush, that you can say in certain circles that it automatically rings bells and gets you in certain places. When you as a dad establish, principles and standards for your kids, where they could say your dad's name hold weight somewhere, and the legacy that your dad or your family has passed down to you means something when you go in a particular circle. Like if LJ comes around my son, I'm like, oh, you're Lerone's son. All right, I see you out in the street, that automatically gives you that pass. But if he's a kid without a leader, no one to set him, then he doesn't get that pass.
That's very important.
Yeah, legacy is very important.
And I look at it as a foundation.
Yeah.
When you're building a house, the most important part of it is the part you sometimes don't see, right? The foundation of a house, but everything else is built upon that.
Yeah.
So if you have a steady foundation, then it doesn't really matter what happened. Storms may come, everything like that, but there's a strong foundation, and that house will withstand all those different storms.
I give you an example. So I just recently bought a house, and my house is 110 years old, right? And when they were doing the inspection, the first thing that the inspector said is that, yo, you don't have to worry about this house. This house is already settled. The foundation is there. It's set down there, right? Which means you already have a head start about anything else, because you don't have to worry about the movement of this house, because the foundation is set.
That's right.
Right? And that's the role of a dad for your kids, is to set foundation, to give them a start, a head start, give them a good start, not even necessarily a head start, a good start, right? And I think, you've been doing that now, and I appreciate that, bro. I love seeing when men step into the role, that they find out what their role is supposed to be and take it on head on, and seeing the interaction with them and their kids. You've been doing that.
Because I think, I can speak specifically for our black community, and working in corporate America and seeing the other aspect of it. I think it's not that we don't get the spotlight, but I think what's at the forefront is always, you can have two people. You have a person sitting down being, talking very subtle and calm, and nobody's going to observe or notice that person, but the one that's screaming out loud, everybody's going to focus on that person. So you have a lot of us fathers that are busy taking care of our family, doing the right thing and everything like that. Nobody notices us because we're always on the move. But, the fathers that might not be 100%, the woman is talking about them to everybody, and everybody's listening to that, and they're not seeing what's in front of their eyes. They're taking what they can hear.
So that's why it's been important for me to take this on, because I feel like those guys that are making the moves on the low, quietly taking care of their family, need to have some spotlight shine on them.
Yeah,
and at some point to say, okay, listen, because I don't want it to seem like it's easy. It's not easy.
Oh, no.
You know, especially in the environment that we live in, and where you know there's so many different influences, right? You know what I mean? It's not easy being a positive influence over the other influences that are there, the internet, the public, you know, society in itself. You know what I mean? And for you to, you know, be having a positive impact on your kids, even though all those other things are going on, is very important because the distractions are there, right? And it's almost like once you get to a certain point, you can't sway. It's harder to sway them. You know what I'm saying? So it's good to be there from the beginning, right? What are some of the negative stereotypes you think comes with being a black dad? Because sometimes I hear people say that, you know, black dads are not affectionate. Or we're not compassionate.
See, that's the funny thing, right? I always look at it like this. I hear people say a lot of things, but that's never been my experience.
Yeah, me either.
So when I look around, I'm like, where's this happening?
Yeah.
Once in a while, you hear or see certain things, and you're like, yeah. Because, listen, man, I've been to the barbershop, and I hear dudes doing things that I'm like, I'm completely against.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, those are his kids.
Yeah.
Or fortunately, I don't know.
Yeah.
Right? God give us different,
paths.
You know, history gives us different futures, destinies, everything like that. So I know it's there, but for the people that I know, like I was saying to you, and the people I surround myself with, the circle that I have, it's all good fathers that try to do the best they can for their kids.
It's funny because I feel the same way. My experience with my dad is, I don't know, even to this day, when I hang up the phone with my dad, yo, I love you. Mm-hmm. Like, that was never something that was not in my life. You know what I'm saying? And my dad was never scared to hug me and kiss me and talk to me. You know what I'm saying? So sometimes I think those things are negated, and that's why I'm trying to bring that to the forefront. That, yo, listen, even if, you know, no one else is saying it, I'm gonna say it. That, yo, listen, I see you loving your kids. I see you hugging your kids. I see you protecting your kids. I see you smiling and laughing with your kids. And if nobody else don't tell you to keep up the good job and keep doing a good job, I'm gonna tell you, because that's what I'm used to and that's what I've seen. And there's a lot of us that's doing that. As I said, our circle is pretty much the same, and we see a lot of the same things, you know, of strong masculine black men that are compassionate with their kids. You know what I'm saying? Hugging and kissing their kids, playing with their kids, acting a fool with their kids, you know, embarrassing themselves to make their kids happy.
I see it all the time online. And I crack up.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Right? But the funny thing is this: if the change doesn't start with us, then why should we complain that there's a problem?
Yeah.
You understand my point? You only have control over your little circle. But you might think that, okay, this is my little circle and I'm controlling this. But when I see my son go off into the world and he'll go and tell his friend, oh, don't do this and don't do that, and they watch you.
Yeah, that's your circle expanding.
Listen, man, I was at work last night and my father-in-law called and tell me that, I was talking to your son. He said, you at work again. You left this time of morning. I'm like, and I'm not even thinking about it, because when I left, I thought he was sleeping. Yeah. Right? But the things that you do that you're unaware that your children are watching, that's why it's so important to try to always do the best you can. We ain't perfect.
Yeah. It's funny that you mentioned your father-in-law, right? Because I knew your father-in-law my whole life, right? And those are the examples. Just to go back to what I'm saying, those are the examples of people that I've seen my whole life. That not to say that I don't know that there are people that grew up without dads, and I have friends and families that grew up with, but there's so many of the positive people, like, you know, like your father-in-law, that maybe his whole life growing up, nobody ever said to him, yo, good job. You know what I'm saying? Good job. Mind you, I have my own example at my home, but he was an example as well for me to see him and how he dealt with his son and his daughter and his family, and they've been together forever, bro. I'm about to be 40. They've been together since I was a little kid, right? And before that. So, and I mean, those are examples that we got to put out more to the world for people to see positive versions of us all the time. I know that we are raising other positive versions, because a lot of times, you know, the stigma that comes on our kids is because we have a negative stigma. We could pass it on. The same way we could pass on negative things, we could absolutely pass on positive things. You know what I'm saying? So, I appreciate it, man. I'm doing this, rough draft. You know what I mean? But I'm doing it because I really feel like the highlight is needed. You know what I mean? The light needs to be shined as much as possible on positive influences and people in positive places. Guys that are about family, about positiveness, about careers, about having a positive impact.
It's real. It's everyday life. So I look at it like this, right? The Bible says, "When I was a child, I spoke as a child,
Mm-hmm.
and now that I'm a man, I put away childish things." If you never take into consideration the fact that, listen, my dad always tell me that his mother always tell him, "Pick the never ask for bond."
Facts.
When you go bother them,
Yeah.
no, you have to take care of them.
Yeah.
So if you don't take that serious, and if you have a positive role model in your life, and you're not taking care of your kids serious, it shows bad on you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But in today's society, with the social media, the this, the that, I think it's a stigma on everything. It's like, yeah, I got my kids, but they with their moms, or I got my kids, and nah, you can't pass off that responsibility to somebody else. It's you have to do what you have to do. And when I'm home, and my wife will tell me all the time, when you home, you don't ever want to go to sleep.
Yeah.
And he always want to play and this and that. And I see the dynamic. So much so that sometimes I'm coming home, I call my wife, "Yeah, I'm on my way." She's like, "Well, can you give me 30 minutes?
Put in the bed.
Because if I come in the house, he ain't going to sleep."
Yeah.
You understand what I mean?
Yeah.
So each person dynamic is different. There's a reason why God made a father and a mother specifically. The dynamic wasn't done by accident. The woman is the nurturer. She cannot instinctually help herself but to nurture. I give you an example. Go in the house, right? And let's say your son is crying and the door is closed. Tell me your wife ain't knocking that door down.
Yeah.
Yeah, what happened?
Yeah,
what happened?
Yeah.
You in there. She knows, hey, listen, you're not going to hurt your child. But instinctually, she can't help but finding out, coming to his every beckon and call when he cries. You are the protector. When you're around, guess what? My man feel good. When your kids were younger and your wife was like, "Yo, they won't go to sleep." And you go and you grab them up and put that bear hug on them.
Yeah.
What happened?
Yeah, they rock the sleep.
You understand my point?
Yeah.
So
the thing about it too is knowing your role, right? You're a mature man that has come into the idea of knowing your role as the protector, right? And I think a lot of times what happens is we confuse what our roles are, or we're not clear on what our roles are, or we're confused about the tools that we need to perform our role. So some guys feel like, okay, listen, I can just throw some money at it. You know what I mean?
Fix the problem.
And that's not gonna work, right? Time, I think, has been the most valuable asset that we can have, right?
So too.
We were talking earlier about memories that you share with your grandparents and your kids. Your kids are always gonna remember the time that you spend with them. You know what I'm saying? And how much valuable, it could be something small, but as long as I was doing it with my dad,
everything.
Yeah. So I think that's another asset that we gotta find out. We gotta pass on to other people, knowing that, listen, as much as you're a dad and you're providing, financially or whatever, you gotta also spend the time. You know what I mean? To pass on little jewels, and pass on little moments where your kid's gonna have that to fall back on. Again, and we circle back to the point of reference and say, okay, when something happens, this is what my dad said for me to do, or this is what I can do, or I can call my dad and be like, "Yo, listen, I'm in this kind of predicament. What can I do?" You know what I'm saying? So you gotta spend the time. You know what I'm saying? And have that, develop that trust and that relationship with your kid, that they don't feel like they're afraid of you or scared of you to talk to you and get some advice. You know what I mean? And I'm just trying to break down all the negative perspective that people might have.
Yeah.
Like dads are compassionate,
That's right.
they're loving, they're educational, they're strong, and they have weak spots for their kids.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Weak spot. Yo, my son just turned 13 like 2 weeks ago. Bro, I'm looking at him every time I look at this kid, I feel like I want to cry sometimes, because I'm watching this little man evolve
right in front of
my eyes.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? And it makes me embrace fatherhood even more. You know what I'm saying? Because now he needs a different kind of guidance now. When he was little, he needed help to put on his socks and his clothes and the potty. Now he's growing up. Now you got to talk to him about, you know, the streets and girls and careers and jobs and, you know, all that stuff. So the guidance never stops.
But the older he gets, the more he appreciates you. Because guess what? The older he gets, the more you can teach him all the things that you know.
Yeah.
And that might be all you got.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You might not have $1 million and all this stuff. And that's why I feel like fatherhood is such a great opportunity, man. Like God gave this to us for a reason, right? We call him our Heavenly Father for a reason. He's protecting us, guiding us around every corner, right? Anything we need, we can call upon him. And that's what we have to be for our earthly children. That same ability and opportunity.
You remember when sometimes people say like your dad's your hero, right? And I should look at it like that. My dad's my hero. No matter what, it could be the most insurmountable thing. I feel like if I call my dad,
he gonna know how to fix it.
Yeah. And
you just always say the right thing. Yo, how you know that? And I wasn't even thinking about that.
There's times too, like even as a dad now, it's like your kids are gonna ask you things, and you'll be like, "Dad." At first, maybe I didn't know, but now I make it a priority to know so that I can teach them, right? So it's like it's almost like now when I'm putting together the furniture in the house, right? I call my sons and I'm like, "Yo, pass me this, pass me that."
They know what it is.
Yeah. So now they know eventually when they get to that point in their lives when they have their own stuff how to do it, and that's just how it works. You know what I'm saying? And it's an understated thing. It seems like a subtle thing, but it's definitely something that we have to recognize and embrace. That you are being an example, a point of reference for somebody else, and it's important for you to make sure that point of reference is a good one. You know what I mean?
And you know, the funny thing is, you talking about you being there for somebody else, right? And I was talking to a friend of mine the other day, and you know, you used to work for the airlines. Who's the first person you put a mask on when the plane is going down? If you with your kids,
you put it over.
You put it over yourself, right?
Yeah.
And everybody like, yo, what you talking about, man? I gotta make sure my kids are all right. I said that to come to the point that you can't be a good father for your kids unless you're okay. And the one thing I try my hardest all the time not to do is get upset at him and I'm gonna be upset with him over stuff, you know, it's kids, but I don't want to be upset at him. And what I mean by that is, like, if you upset at somebody, you gonna want to throw hands. You know what I'm saying? If you got a problem with a dude, you gonna I got to run up on him. If you're upset with the person, you understand the fact that even though the person might be doing something contrary to what you say or something that would get you upset, you still have compassion to say, okay, even though I'm upset with him, I still have to guide him in the proper thing to do or the right thing to do. And the contrast is being upset at a person, because when you're upset at a person, you can't put your emotions are gonna come through, and you can't have compassion. So that's one of the things that I look at, that something I try to work on as a father. You know what I mean? They talk about having patience, and man, listen, I told my boy the other day, I said, yo, I was praying for God to give me patience, and be careful what you ask God for. You know what I'm saying? Because in every little thing, the other day I spoke to him about something, and I'm like, LJ, don't do this. And I turn around, he's doing the exact same thing.
Trust me, I know.
But as he's doing that, I can't remember what it was. It's something I always talk to him about that I was doing. And he's like, oh, Daddy, you said not to do that. I'm like, yo, man. And I'm looking, I'm like, wait. I told you not to. Yeah, but Daddy, you said not to, like, walk on the
carpet. With your shoes. Trust me, I'm doing the same thing. I just put a rug in my living room, and it's hey, you're eating in the living room on the rug. But it's good to hear it, because you know that the things that you're saying to them, that they're absorbing, even though sometimes they act like they're not absorbing, and that's where the how I've gotten to this point with this particular thing that I'm trying to do now is, you know, when you were younger, someone was there, i.e. your dad. Not to say your mom wasn't there, but i.e. your dad was there to show you certain things, and you recognize now that you are becoming that thing that showed you've taken on some of those things that person showed you, and that's what allowed you to evolve into the man that you are right now.
It. Because as a father, you give a good foundation, right? And that's why I keep talking about specifically the foundation and why it's so important. You make a good foundation, and you leave the rest of the house with that child to build. And as high up as he can go is as good as the foundation that you build. So if you build a strong enough foundation, your child might end up being a skyscraper.
Yeah, well, that's a really good analogy.
Or if you make a shaky foundation, like you were saying, the house might not be able to support what that child is trying to build, and he might only get up to 3 floors. You know, so our job is this small amount of time that we have, and I always remember that scene from Black Panther, right? When he dies and he goes and he sees his ancestors and his father comes to him, right? And his father's talking to him, and it's the same thing. We watch Lion King together. My son knows every word. And Simba was brought by Mufasa to the town. He's like, at some point, I won't be here.
But this foundation that I laid.
This foundation is now it's going to be for you to carry the torch. And that's our job, right? Because just like if you think of Adam and Eve, we, you, me, all of us here were in Adam and Eve, right? The first man, first woman. And we are a legacy of that. So is it that we are actually a part of our family tree. So your entire ancestor from now on came from you. Your entire lineage of people came from you. So if you, this branch on this tree, is not a good support, the branches that are coming out of you will not be.
So you said some good things. You said some fun things. You said, as a black dad, it's important to be a point of reference, a good point of reference. It's important to provide strong foundation so that eventually your kids can build on that and become skyscrapers, which is a very good analogy. And it's also good to leave legacy, right? Something for them to build on, whether it's their name, whether it's the principles, whether it's their standards. And those kind of things, those are the things that kind of sum up your role as a dad.
Absolutely.
Being a point of reference, being a strong foundation, leaving a legacy, and providing guidance in total for your kids. Yo, man, I appreciate the conversation.
I appreciate you too, man.
I really appreciate you giving me the time and providing this insight on what it is that you as a dedicated black dad provide for your kids. And I hope this could be something that could influence other people, influence other dads, and be a point of reference for the rest of us on how to be a dedicated black dad. Appreciate it.
All right, appreciate it,
good, bro.
Yeah, I look forward to it. Yeah, man. It's like, this is one of them conversations where it's like, you could